Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tiffany Macias Silva, Enrollment Coordinator and Advisor for UCEAP programs at the UC Davis Global Learning Hub. I'm here with Monica Macias. We're not related. She's one of the International Program Specialists at the UCEAP System-Wide Office, and together we co-chair the Application Processing Work Group. Thanks for taking the time to join us today for an overview of a big change we've been working on over the past 3 years, which is to revolutionize the application experience that UCEAP students go through when they apply to our programs. This has been an extremely collaborative effort between UCEAP and campus study abroad staff, and we're grateful for the relationships that have been strengthened as well as the new perspectives that have been gained through our work together on this project. We're going to begin by walking you through the current application process, identifying some issues that needed to be addressed, and goals we've been trying to meet as we work on improving both the staff and student experience in the application phase of the UCEAP student life cycle. After that, we'll talk about how this project has evolved and walk through the new application process. And then we'll wrap up with some data we've collected through a new student experience survey and what we've observed in the application data.
Here we have a design of the current application process, which I'll walk through as I identify the needs that we needed to be fixed and could be improved. You'll see that the starting point is when the student submits their application, which includes both the campus and the UCEAP requirements. After submission, campus staff review all requirements and follow up with students if anything is missing or needs to be corrected. The process at each campus varies, as do the requirements and application deadlines. At some campuses, applications are reviewed on a rolling basis, while at other campuses, staff wait to do their review after the campus application deadline has passed. Either way, they are all reviewed before the UCEAP application occurs. And once the application is complete and the campus has confirmed that all requirements have been met, the application is handed over to UCEAP. At this point, the campus introduces the student to the UCEAP staff who will be working with them for the rest of the application period and through the pre-departure phase as they prepare for their program abroad. After the UCEAP application deadline passes and all applications have been handed over, UCEAP will do a final review and processing of the application, or they will move the application forward to the partner institution for final review and processing. When processing is complete, the application moves to accepted status to identify that the student has been accepted to participate in the program. As you can see, this process is very linear in that one person has to complete all of their steps before the application can move along to the next person. So this process can take several months, leaving the student waiting around, wondering if they can commit to their plans to study abroad, or if they should go find other backup plan options in the meantime. There are often long periods of time when students don't receive any communication from staff and are left wondering when their next steps will occur. This process also requires multiple staff members to review the same documents. Rather than splitting up the workloads, the staff can review only what they require. In many cases, UCEAP isn't finding out how many applications are moving forward from the campuses until right around the UCEAP application deadline, which doesn't allow UCEAP to have reliable projected enrollment data before the recruitment period has ended, which can cause issues for strategic planning and budgeting. Considering the challenges of this process, along with the changing needs of students, it became evident that a more streamlined process was necessary. A process that prioritizes their experience, connects UCEAP staff to students earlier, reduces duplication of work, improves enrollment data, and more clearly defines staff roles.
The application processing work group is split into 3 subgroups: pilot, communications, and recruitment and retention. It was important for us to have as much representation as possible across the work group to ensure that everyone had a say in the development and to ensure that the new process would work for all stakeholders, including UCEAP and campus staff and students. Today, we're going to focus on the work of the pilot subgroup. This group collaborated to make some initial changes to the process, created a training manual, held training sessions, piloted the changes, collected and evaluated feedback. After our wrap-up and review of the first pilot, we saw the need to run a second pilot, including the incorporation of additional changes based on the feedback that we had received. This year, we will be running a final pilot to test out the last big changes before implementation of the new process for all of the programs. The pilot rollout has been an iterative process that is continuously improving as we've been collecting data. We've been testing new and revised pieces, including communications and timelines, as well as developing new components such as the new application status flow. On our first test, Pilot 1, we've got our feet wet, piloting the new process with just a few programs. At the end of this pilot, we were able to determine that we were heading in the right direction based on feedback we received from the student survey sent out to both pilot and non-pilot program applicants. Our second round, Pilot 2, involved more exposure to the process with the inclusion of more programs, including more limited capacity programs. We focused on the main points of concern, which were if our timeline and communications were working well, and the limited capacity first come, first serve process. This was a cultural shift for some campuses, and we wanted to ensure that this process didn't undermine applicants' commitment to programs. We added questions to our survey about what applicants did in preparation for the application to help us determine this. In the upcoming cycle, Pilot 3, we will be refining and testing 2 application periods, one for summer, fall, and year, one for winter and spring, as well as continuing improvements such as streamlining communications and better defined staff review periods. Going forward, full implementation will include all programs participating and no longer doing a regular process, improved application statuses, as well as an application redesign. So here you can see 2 images of the tabs in the UCEAP application. You can see in the current application, there's one document uploads tab where students would upload all of the required documents that are being collected in the portal. The system doesn't differentiate for the student which documents are for their campus and which are for UCEAP. When staff from both offices review the application, they must look through the full list of uploaded documents and ignore those that aren't required for their review. In the new design, the application form, there will be 2 tabs. One will be for items required by their UC campus, and the other will be for items required by UCEAP, and then staff will be able to review the items in their respective tabs.
So here's design of the new application process, which I'll walk through and identify how this new process is addressing some of the previously mentioned issues and goals. The starting point is still when the student submits their application. Within 1 business day, the applicant receives an introduction email from UCEAP that includes information about what they can expect to happen next and when. All staff then begin their review simultaneously and on a rolling basis, with the goal of every application going through the review period within a few weeks after it's submitted. This process is no longer linear, and students can hear back faster, giving them more confidence in their study abroad plans. The hope is that this will contribute to an increase in retention, as students won't feel the need to go for other backup opportunities. Campus staff communicate with students about any issues with the campus requirements, and UCEAP staff communicate about UCEAP requirements. So this division of duties helps reduce overlapping work and more clearly define staff roles for the students. In addition, since UCEAP staff are involved earlier in the process, more robust enrollment data can be gathered during the recruitment period to assist with strategic planning and budgeting. Once both parties have completed their review and the application is ready to move forward, UCEAP emails a welcome message to the student to let them know that either the application has been accepted or that there are next steps to complete for the partner to accept them. Unlike in the current process, there is a single application deadline, which is the UCEAP application deadline. This means that all students have the same application period for a program, no matter which UC campus they attend. I will mention that since programs with limited capacity are being filled on a first-come, first-served basis according to the application submission time, they may fill up before the application deadline. If this happens, the application deadline will move up, so the applications will close and no additional applications will be accepted. Students should understand that if their first choice is a limited capacity program, they should prepare to submit a complete application soon after the application opens. If their application is incomplete, they may be at risk of losing their spot in line. If a student doesn't receive a spot in a program, staff will work with them to apply for a different program that meets their needs. Throughout this process, students are hearing from both the campus and UCEAP staff, which helps them get the assistance they need directly from the appropriate staff. The communication templates have been standardized, so all students are receiving the same key information, which has helped to close some of those communication gaps. The student experience has been the biggest focus throughout the development of this process, and we've been happy to see some improvements. So we'll now show you some of our findings in the student experience survey that has been the key piece in our evaluations of this pilot. In the first run of the new process, we sent a survey to applicants in all UCEAP programs to help us gauge how this new process was affecting the student experience in comparison to the current process. And the survey was focused on communication, its effectiveness, clarity, confusion, and missed opportunities or gaps in communication. Overall, we saw a slight improvement between the students in the pilot programs versus the non-pilot programs. More students in the pilot program said that they received the right amount of useful communication at the right time. So we knew that we were headed in the right direction with the communication plan for our new process. So since we had already discovered from the first survey that we were on the right track, we didn't focus on comparing pilot versus non-pilot student experiences in the second survey. Instead, we refined the questions to dig deeper into what specifically was working in the pilot and what needed improvement. We were able to look into more than communication and ask questions related to students' understanding of the process, who to contact about what, their actions that they took before submitting their application, their level of commitment to continuing in the program that they applied to, and an overall application experience rating. The majority of applicants selected a score of 7 or higher on a 10-point scale with an average satisfaction rating of 7.5. Something that has changed recently across the board, not just related to the pilot, is that students are only allowed to submit one application per term in the UCEAP portal. This means that they will need to do more research and be more prepared when they are applying because they won't have a chance to submit another application or a backup application for the same term unless they cancel that first application. Fortunately, it looks like students have been focusing on applying to their first choice program, and they're committed to continuing in the program that they have applied to. However, it's always a great practice if all of their academic support on campus and their study abroad support staff can remind them to consider their study abroad goals, both academic and personal, so that they can focus on preparing to apply for a program that is likely to meet their needs. Overall, we found from the other survey questions that there are many things that are working in the new process, and there continue to be opportunities for improvement. We will continue to evaluate and improve this new process in the years to come, and these survey results have established a baseline for the new process, so we will be able to compare results year after year to continue measuring the impacts of the changes that we make.
We also have 2 pieces of application data we wanted to highlight for you. In the past, each campus was given a specific number of spots that they could use for their students in limited capacity programs. This system of delegating spots by campus didn't enable all qualified students across the UC system to apply with an equal chance of getting in. With the new first come first serve process, it seems like we're sending roughly the same number of students from each campus as we have in past years, with some campuses sending a few more or a few less, which leads us to believe that no single campus is dominating spots. And over time, we may see those campuses who had fewer spots sending more students than they were able to in the past. We look forward to keeping an eye on this data and analyzing it as further as the years go on. We're ready for the next slide.
Oh, I was going to say, another piece of data that we wanted to highlight is improved retention, which is one of our goals. So you can see in this chart that the attrition for the pilot programs is less than attrition for non-pilot programs.
Thanks. So this year, we're going to be spending time making necessary changes for the process to run for all programs, including updates to the UCEAP portal. We'll also explore the possibility of adding more automated messaging to reduce staff time spent on sending and tracking messages. And then in fall 2024, we'll be running the new process for all 2025-26 programs. If any questions or concerns arise in your work with the applicants, please feel free to contact the application and processing work group by email. And we can also answer questions that you may have now with a few minutes we have left.
So please feel free to unmute yourself if you have any questions, or we can keep an eye on the chat if you'd like to type in any questions there. Okay, I don't see any coming in. So let's go ahead and, well, you can write down that email if you'd like. And thank you all for joining us. We'll go to the last slide here.
Thank you again for joining us. And don't forget to complete the survey and remember our session when you're completing that.
Thank you.
Thank you.